Thank you very much for inviting me for the keynote presentation. The topic that's given to me is sustainability through technology, innovative reporting practices, linking intellectual capital to corporate responsibility. Before I present my model, I would like to clarify certain misconceptions in relation to corporate responsibility as sustainability. There are three terms that appear in magazines, in the literature, and so forth. These are ESG, CSR, and sustainability. So let's touch base on these three first, so that we know what we are going to, or what I am going to talk about. ESG is about environmental, social, and governance. And that aspect is to show the practical pathway, how organizations contribute to sustainability. Its focus is on the present. On the other hand, CSR, which is corporate social responsibility, is about the sustainability strategies employed by organizations, and the focus is to report about the past. Sustainability, on the other hand, is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Therefore, it has an emphasis on past, present, and future. So in this presentation, our focus is on corporate sustainability. The model I am presenting to you for my presentation is about intellectual capital as an input and how it's going to influence innovative reporting practices, which is moderated by technology, and then innovative reporting practices as an input, how it's going to influence corporate sustainability, which is also moderated by technology. So this is the model I'm going to present to you. And I'll start to present with the following outline. Intellectual capital as an organizational input. Then I will talk about technology as a moderator. Third, innovative reporting practices as an output, and then it becomes an input where the technology will serve as a moderator, to the fifth, which is corporate sustainability as an outcome. Once I've done that, I also want to touch base on the fair use and accountability of innovative technology. So when we talk about capitals, there are three types of capitals in organizations: financial, intellectual, and sustainability. Financials, we refer to the one we report through financial statements, income statement, balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. And then the intellectual capital is the hidden capital that plays a significant role in value creation in organizations. And then the sustainability capital that we want to focus and has social aspect, environmental aspect, also intellectual capital aspects. Now, how do they interact? The financial capital is a capital that we measure and report. Then the intellectual capital is something that's not reported on financial statements because of the measurability issues, but organizations are well aware of their importance on value creation. They serve as firms' resources, and these firms' resources are the resources that are being used towards attaining or contributing to sustainable development goals through organizations, where organizations can demonstrate that they have contributed to sustainable development, and that's been communicated through sustainability reporting. Here I have mentioned two theories that support this model: theory of distributive justice and Gaia theory. Let's now look at the role of intellectual capital. This is the invisible capital that's there in organizations that creates organizational value. The literature categorizes them into three: structural capital, external capital, and human capital. Although there are a number of items under each category, for my presentation, I will highlight the items that are of importance to us under the structural capital, which refers to the structure of the organization, the intellectual capital aspect that's embedded in the structure of the organization. They comprise technology, patents, copyrights. Then the organization interacts with the external and creates value. And examples of those are customers and brands. Then the human capital, which is within the organization, but they are not within the structure, because the human capital can come in and leave. They relate to people, their qualifications, skills, and competencies. So these three aspects, or these three categories, are the categories that we collectively call intellectual capital that contributes to organizational value. Now, when intellectual capital creates value, as organizations, we try to measure them and report them. But what we need to understand, intellectual capital, which is the static side, is being activated through knowledge management. The knowledge is created and stored. They set the background in the organization, and they've been leveraged to take advantage, ultimately to create value for the organization. So they go together, intellectual capital and knowledge management. One is the static, which is the intellectual capital. The other is the dynamic, which is the knowledge management. So in relation to knowledge, there are two aspects: tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. Organizations have a tendency to codify this knowledge, whether it is explicit or tacit. Explicit is the known and understood knowledge, and tacit is kind of the hidden or that knowledge that kept to yourself. But organizations like to codify this knowledge so that it becomes available to everyone, even if the employees walk out of the organization. Once it is codified, it has to be captured. And this capturing usually takes place through technology. And technology plays a vital part here. And it enables, that is the technology that enables leveraging knowledge. That's to make knowledge available to other parties, which otherwise is not available. So that such knowledge could be disseminated, shared among the employees, in the organization, with other organizations to create value for the organization. So for us, technology plays a vital role in relation to mobilizing intellectual capital. So the beginning of this is from data. It's the data that's been collected, that's converted, translated into information, and making meaning out of information creates the knowledge. And it is this knowledge that's being managed in organization through codifications and then leveraged to the advantage of the organization to create value. Often this value creation takes an economic form, and the known performance indicator or the short-term performance indicator is profit. But to do that, there's intellectual capital and capabilities, competencies, assets gaining competitive advantage. But it's done in the context of the organization. So the contextual environment matters. Every organization operates in a contextual environment, and that plays an important role. Let's look at the second aspect, which is technology as a moderator. We touch base on intellectual capital. We want to get to innovative reporting practices. But what does and how does the technology plays the role? Technology today is an important moderator with artificial intelligence and machine learning. We can classify this technology into broad categories that are driven by supervised learning and unsupervised learning. The goals, training, and outcomes of these technologies are quite different. For example, supervised learning. The goal is to predict outcome for the new data. On the other hand, goal for unsupervised learning is obtaining insights from new data. On the training side, the supervised learning requires label, small data set, train with more supervision. Unsupervised learning can use unlabeled data sets, or has to be large data sets. And it can then learn by itself with less supervision. And the outcome that we expect from supervised learning is predictions, like pricing predictions or sustainability-related events predictions like weather and so forth, which are of importance to organizations on their value creation. On unsupervised learning, we try to get insights, for example, about customer sentiments in relation to weather, or when pricing is changed, how the customers' sentiments change, and so forth. But in a practical sense, it's hard for organizations to go with supervised learning technology only or unsupervised learning technology only. From a practical perspective, at least for now, it appears that it's better to go with semi-supervised learning, where the goal is also for prediction and also to obtain insights. And you train your technology through labeled and unlabeled data sets. And the outcome is about predictions and also about insights. In that way, organizations can leverage technology for better organizational value. Now, we talked about the intellectual capital and the technology. I focus on this supervised and unsupervised, and then in between the semi-supervised technology, how that can contribute to innovative reporting practices. They can lead to innovative reporting practices because they can produce new information in relation to corporate sustainability. They can create new insights, new predictions about, for example, each of the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. But this innovative reporting practices helps in internal decision making rather than external reporting. It will provide insights, it will provide predictions for organizations to make internal decisions to create value. Now let's look at the sustainability-related reporting practices. Technology for sustainability-related reporting practices. We touch base on artificial intelligence, which simulates human intelligence to take over decision-making. It is happening. And it is increasingly happening in large scale. A subset of that is the machine learning that uses algorithms to learn from data and perform duties. And subset of machine learning is the deep learning that uses artificial neural networks to solve complex tasks. So we can say that the refinements of artificial intelligence into machine learning and deep learning, and how these technologies can help the organizations for sustainability-related reporting practices. So these sustainability-related reporting practices, using those technologies, are helping organizations to come up with innovative reporting practices that are internally beneficial for them. Then there is technology that can help or moderate these internal reporting practices to bring out for corporate sustainability. So what's happening to intellectual capital? Because we were talking about intellectual capital and how that's going to influence sustainability reporting practices. I did mention about the three categories of intellectual capital. As time goes on, the mix of the intellectual capital, their importance is going to change. The way it's going to change is that the structural capital, where it embeds technology and various technology-related rights like patents and so forth, is going to become far more important to organizations. Then comes the human capital. The technology cannot operate in isolation. they had to be innovated, they had to be managed, they had to be leveraged. And second comes the human capital, their competencies, skills, and competencies. Those staff, employees who are knowledgeable about technology. And the least comes the external capital, because it's the human capital and the structural capital that will take over the external capital. For example, relations with customers, technology will take over with some input with human to build the relationship with fast service, accurate service, and talking with voice commands from customers for ordering, delivering, and the returning goods and so forth. And human capital is important to manage that technology and to ensure that it's rightly done. Now that we have talked about the intellectual capital and then the corporate reporting, I want to now touch base on the sustainability corporate reporting. There are two aspects in relation to corporate reporting. One is the sustainability related reporting in general. Within that, there's another aspect that has taken so much focus, and that's climate-related reporting. There are various frameworks that's been put forward for us. The important frameworks are the International Financial Reporting Standards, the sustainability standards that are coming out. There are two standards that have come out, which are voluntary at the moment for voluntary adoption. Standard 1 is about sustainability related reporting in general. Climate reporting, IFRS 2. So there are a number of reporting templates that have come out. Now, in relation to climate reporting and corporate reporting, there are various frameworks, and the challenges in the future for technology is to capture them as scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And finally, there are ethical issues that has to be addressed by the government and private roles. These ethical issues are in relation to innovative technology that can create risk. The ones that I can highlight are the deep fakes, misinformation, disinformation, then the slavery aspect of labor, algorithmic discrimination, and data privacy. There's so many.
Thank you so much, Prof. Indra. Any questions from audience here?
The SDGs target are primarily developed to measure global or national progress. How exactly do we align them to organizational level targets?
So how exactly we align the ESG with the organizational level target?
Right. Very good. Yeah, thank you. Environmental social governance is a practical way of reporting. And there is still debate about what's the approach organization must take in relation to corporate reporting. Even if ESG is included, which is environmental, social, and governance, the addition here is the governance aspect. And then organizations must cover the environmental contribution and the social contribution in relation to sustainability. How do they report about social aspect? How do they report about environmental aspects? There are two major frameworks for them. And the two major frameworks are the GRI, and the other is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. On the GRI framework, there's also a component where the governance aspect could be reported. So these two frameworks are the ones that are being used at the moment by organizations, but it's in time to come. I think the IFRS sustainability standards will take over, because ultimately these reportings would be done by the accountants and the directors. This will more likely will be part of the financial reporting in the future. And as a result, the IFRS sustainability standards are likely to take over the sustainability reporting in some form or fashion.
All right, Prof. Indra, thank you so much for the answer. So thanks for the insightful keynotes as well. Thank you,
Thank you
Prof.
very
Indra.
much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
See you. Bye.